All right, live from New York and DevOps days. I'm Barton George, and I'm here with Mark Imbriaco. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Barton. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you were at GitHub. As we were just chatting about, for those people who sort of been away, GitHub has sort of become the center of all sort of things social coding. Back in the day, I remember SourceForge, and now it's all about GitHub. How did that happen?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that played into it. I think there was a little bit of people SourceForge just stagnated a little bit, right, for a long time. And I think the social features in GitHub and the way that it was designed with collaboration front and center really helped. I also think that SourceForge was created in a time where we didn't have distributed version control. We didn't have huge projects. We didn't have nearly as many open source projects. We didn't have a good idea of how to collaborate on these types of projects. All those things played into GitHub being successful.
And so what are some of the just sort of success metrics that you guys reel off as far as, in the last 5 years we've grown, or here are some of the customers?
I think we have somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million users now. I think when I joined a year ago, we had on the order of 2 million. I could be off there, but we've kind of doubled or so in the last year. We have somewhere north of 8 million repositories, and maybe closer to 10. Again, I haven't looked at those numbers lately, but they're growing like crazy. Just the sheer number of projects, the sheer number of developers who are involved, and we're really just scratching the surface still, right? If you look at the sort of worldwide developer market and the number of developers that there are, we still just have a small fraction. And getting more of those developers involved in open source and in participating in the development community and in moving beyond their day-to-day work is really what we're interested in. We want to help people work better together.
And how much of your mix now, and what would be your goal as far as sort of open source individual people and then enterprise accounts for GitHub?
Yeah, I think I don't know that I don't know what the mix is. I think we just want GitHub to be the best place to work together on code for developers, no matter where they work or no matter whether they're working on a project for pay or for their own edification and an open source project. So I don't think we pay a huge amount of attention to that mix.
Fair enough. So what is your role there at GitHub?
So I'm on the operations team that sort of keeps the site up and running.
And so what kind of an architecture are you guys using, and how geographically diverse are you, and what's the setup like?
So in terms of the team, geographic diversity, our team is entirely diverse. I think we have one city where we have 2 people on the ops team, but the rest of us are distributed across the U.S. With 1 person in England and 1 person in Sydney, Australia. In terms of our architecture, we are in essentially a single data center right now that we're working to improve that. A lot of our app is built, the front-end web app is built in Ruby and Ruby on Rails. A lot of the back end is written in C and is C extensions to Git. We have a number of people that contribute to the Git project itself and who contribute to the external library bindings to Git and so on.
And so, as you look over the next year, what are some of your challenges from your role that you see as you guys grow?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious ones are around things like scale, right? As we continue to scale up, our growth curve is getting steeper. It's not flattening out. So, just maintaining capacity is a big one. Getting to a sort of geographic diverse architecture where we can serve requests from multiple places or where we have multiple data centers is huge for us. Solving some availability problems we've had recently is a big problem for us. We've had a number of DDoS type attacks and things like that recently that we've had to learn how to deal with. So I think it's mostly a matter of scale and just making sure we have the most solid service that we can.
Awesome. And then just to conclude with, I think one of the key things behind GitHub is this whole concept of forking and be able to take something and it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And so how do you work to support that? Does that factor into your designs, and how is that looking?
Yeah, so the Git protocol has a model that sort of encourages people to create a fork or create a branch from a particular project and make their changes. And then we have a mechanism called a pull request, so the idea is you'll take an open source project or a project you're interested in working on, you'll fork it into your own sort of workspace, you'll make your changes, and then you'll suggest to the project owner of the source project that they should pull your changes in. And that's called a pull request. And that's sort of the killer app of GitHub, actually.
It's interesting. So gone are the days for a lot of these people with the tight inner commanders, the committers and things like that. How does the committer model work with something like GitHub? They're the people who accept the pull requests, I assume.
Yeah, I think it varies from project to project, right? Some projects have what they call a free-flowing commit bit, right, where they'll give commit ability to anyone who wants it. Other projects have a more sort of code review philosophy where they want to strictly control the code that gets landed into their primary branch. But the beauty of Git is that, let's say you make a change to a project that suits your needs, and the project owner decides that that's not something that they need for the main project itself. The way that Git works, it's perfectly acceptable, and in fact, relatively easy to maintain your own fork forever with your changes and merge in changes that come into the main project whenever you like.
Awesome. Oh, brave new world. Mark Imbriaco, thank you so much.
My pleasure.